The latest statistics that were shared by the New York State Department of Labor today, to amplify what Tim said, it's about a 25% drop off in construction employment for this year. That may be low, as you might guess, but that's the official number. And in this statistical area, Orange, Westchester, Rockland, we're actually 13th out of 14th, 14th out of 15th in terms of the metropolitan statistical areas at 19.3% unemployment. Again, my guess unofficially is that that may be a low number. But obviously there have been some hopeful signs recently, and we hope those continue with many, many caveats. I will say just one thing related to what either you or your employees or coworkers may be wondering about. The Department of Labor had a very difficult time, as did all departments of labor in the 50 states, in handling unemployment insurance claims, of course. And of the 5,000 people that were assigned to I used to work for DOL, it's hard to believe how many different divisions and silos there were, but everybody essentially was put into the same silo in handling unemployment insurance claims over the past, let's just say after the first 2 weeks of chaos. And because of that influx of DOL employees into that one area, the backlog has been significantly reduced, not completely removed because there are some individual issues, but backlog has been significantly removed, and hopefully they'll be able to get back working with us on their core mission, which is to get people jobs. But in terms of what you do and what we're trying to do collectively in getting people into construction jobs, to filling the jobs that Tim referred to, we do a number of things, and I see on the screen that Allison Jones, who is part of our staff, if she wants to just wave. I know half of you can probably see her. There she is on the bottom of my screen. I'm not sure where she is on here, but she oversees many of the programs that we use to try to particularly connect young people with employment opportunities, the trades, pre-apprenticeship programs, et cetera. So there's a lot of acronyms, but basically they are the WDAY, the Workforce Development Academy for Youth, which is involved with pre-apprenticeship and pre-learning opportunities. And in that, we partner with a number of agency providers in the county. One of them is the Guidance Center that works directly with Soulful Synergy to provide apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship opportunities in construction. So I'm eager to hear what Alex and Dwayne have to say about that.
Mentorship. But I really want to help on a local level. How can I help? I did a 9-month leadership Westchester, and what's my mission? What's my values? My passion is trying to get what Thom was saying is young children, young adults involved and interested in our business, which is going to high schools and talking to the guidance counselors. And about a year ago, I was on a panel on the same topic with BRI, and there was somebody from BOCES there. And it was something that we had always talked about, that BOCES was something, it's right here, right in our backyard. It took a long time for me to make a connection. And I have to proud to say that in January, my son, myself, and my husband went in and spoke to the kids at BOCES. I connected. It took a long time to hook up with the right person. He said we were the first it's called urban forestry, so you wouldn't think it's in my field, but apparently they're talking about excavation, and there's a lot of different bunch of kids in there. So we went in, we spent a morning in there, we had the best time. We were so excited. We actually brought a machine in there. We brought a machine and let the kids, it was probably January, so it was winter, we were a little bit slow. We brought a bulldozer in, we taught some of the kids how to take it off of the trailer, and spend some time. And the idea was that we were going to continue to go back in to do that. Well, obviously we know what happened, and we had to take the machine out, and COVID happened, and that kind of put a screeching halt to that. But very passionate about going in there to continue that, because there's a need for that. And the kids were very excited. There was 2 or 3 kids, and we lost track with them a little bit, but about 3 weeks ago, the gentleman who I was working with called me up and said, I have the 2 best guys that are graduating from this program. I'm calling you first because I want you to have first dibs on them. Because you came in, you spent the time, we did a presentation, they filled out some applications, we gave them hats, we gave them shirts, and maybe there were 20 kids, and we already have 2 working for us right now. Very proud to say. And that to me is a huge accomplishment, and maybe a 3rd coming. And hopefully we can continue that in the fall when we're allowed to come back in and, you know, see people.
I'm first generation here, right? My mom raised me. My father was not in the picture. My father, again, I weave in a little deeper because this is the type of trauma and experiences people have growing up that we're trying to help. My father was actually a homeless man that was fighting alcoholism his whole life here in New Rochelle, right? I used to walk by him, and I used to, with my friends, to be able to cope. I used to be able to say, hey, look, my father's not going to recognize me when I walk by him. And he didn't, because he didn't see me since as a baby, right? And from there, it drove me to have a sense of inferiority growing up, thinking that I didn't know something of the world, right? Because I only saw my mom's vision. And what I lead with this is that all the individuals, even starting when we did AmeriCorps, leading into youth action and the youth bill, working out in Harlem, I would say majority of our students that were having a hard time with life and trying to make it work for themselves usually came from situations very common to this, where they're coming from single families, a place where they didn't have the mentorship that sometimes that usually begins with the parents, right? And that's really was been one of those driving forces, because I'm always very honest with my students and our students when we teach them, saying that the one driving force in all this is I guess that sense of not knowing that pushed me to continue try to learn more and more and more and go in that direction. And that's what got me into the union and and now again led me into youth action and doing the work in Environlution in Harlem, right? Once we got to youth action, right, the idealistic view of going in there and inspiring and saying, all right, look, life is like this, and look, you know, the world, if you work hard, can be like this, very quickly came to an end, right? It's quick, it's short-lived, right? Because what needs to start happening early on with our students and what we understood, and there's another disconnect that we're going to talk to, but the one thing that we understood directly with our students was that we wanted to be able to keep them engaged. Right, we live in an era where instant gratification is everything. They're on their phones. You speak to anyone in the community-based organization working in vocational training, they're stuck on their phones and so forth, and it's hard to manage that, right? So by creating these small, short rewards, having them involved in community projects, having them actually learn tools really quickly, one of the things that we incorporated into this was what it is to join the construction world. When I joined the construction world, I was the runner, right? To the point where they sent me the truck to pick up things that they didn't even exist, right? It's like, so and it was something that when we came in, I was like, all right, how can we create these short rewards that actually are going to be valuable to the employer? And we started teaching the students what are the name of each hand tool and what are the use of each hand tool? What's the name of each power tool? What's the use of each power tool? All this was done under NCCR, right? NCCR is a national certification that is driven by the Department of Labor, so Youth Action and Youth Build could run, right? But within that, there's a huge disconnect between that NCCR certification and what the actual industry wants. And a lot of our students were coming out trying to utilize the NCCR certification to get jobs, and this really happened in our first year out there doing this type of work, where contractors, especially mom and pop shops, had no idea what they were. And those are usually the ones that we're trying to work with to get students that hands-on experience before we went after the big corporations.
What he was mentioning there is really us trying to figure out what it is, the pain point that the employers are having. And a big part is turnover, right? This industry is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. It requires a lot of hours of grit. And sometimes when you get in it, even after you've taken all these certifications and you went and got your OSHA, when you're actually doing the labor, it's just a different beast and a different animal than what you thought it was going to be. So how do you keep retention? Well, setting real expectations in the classroom is part of it. So, you know, with Alex and the way that the curriculums are designed, you know, we don't set the students up for failure. We make sure that, you know, they have a real expectation of what the training is going to look like. But we also have what we consider like a mental toughness training, a real training about resiliency and about overcoming obstacles and about dealing with challenges and what that really looks like. So that again, as they're experiencing those in the real world, they're not discouraged by them and they don't start feeling like a failure if it didn't meet all their expectations. There's something that they can gain from it. We also understand that we want to prepare people for career. For employers, you know, the cost of training somebody and going through all the work of onboarding them only for them to leave a month or two later is cost prohibitive. And it usually is then not attractive for a lot of people in the construction industry to look for students who they don't know are going to have longevity. So we try to make sure our students understand that they are approaching a career, but also understand that even if they don't love the career, that there's something they can gain from the experience by sticking it out a little bit longer than maybe the other students would. And that is trying to make sure that they're linking this experience of the classroom right before they get into the workforce to their real passion. And so we have one student, which Alex has probably mentioned when he does his, his real overview of some of the success stories, but is very passionate about music and really wants to be a performance artist, and really that's his passion. But he understands that by working in construction, he can get money to make studio time to go and pursue that. So he has a goal and why he's there. And maybe he's not going to become, a 30-year construction professional, but he understands while he's there that he's committed, he's a professional, he shows up on time, he does what he needs to do because that's helping him to fuel his passions and his dreams. So there's really something to be said there about the way that the programs can approach it. So Alex mentioned something else in the disconnect of the funding, in making sure that the funders, in the NCCR certification is a little bit of a disconnect from the employers that we've come across. They're really looking for people to have the OSHA, SST cards now, the CPR, they want these certain certifications. And so we want to try to see how we can work with these CBOs to really create the curriculum that's going to give them the best chance to be marketable. And so in addition to what we mentioned on the certification side, we're looking to collaborate with employers and construction companies like yourselves to really create these pipelines of apprenticeship and get them the hands-on experience, because that's really the next big piece is once you give them the classroom environment, they need to get that hands-on experience. And so we hold their hand through that process. So after they go through the training and they're working with you, they also have support with some of this mental toughness, with some of these professional development services. That even before they get to you, I should say, we work on them, resume writing, cover letters, how to do what we call an elevator pitch, which again is kind of what I alluded to before, which is knowing where you're going, right? My elevator pitch is, my name is Dwayne Norris. I just got out of this training program. I'm excited to get in the construction industry and start as a laborer, but I want to work my way into a foreman and ultimately become a construction manager, right? If that's your elevator pitch and that's how you're trying to navigate your career path, we have a better way of being able to say, okay, these are the skills that you have that we can utilize. These are the gaps that need to get filled. Some of those gaps are going to come from needing more hands-on training, and that's going to encourage them again to go and pursue additional resources and additional education to kind of fill those gaps. And so